All right, there we go. Hey, hey.
Hey,
Welcome to the Brian and Kristen podcast. I'm Brian,
and I'm Kristen.
and we are coming at you today. I'm coming at you from Ohio. Kristen, where are you at right now?
I'm in Nashville.
Ooh, cool. That's cool. Do you get to see any of the excitement out there, or
Yeah,
are you kind of
I
hotel
mean,
bound?
no, well, now I'm based here, so I'm in between trips. So I got back from, I don't remember where I got back from. I know I'm going to New York City tomorrow. Gosh, I cannot remember where I just got back from. That's the problem. You go to so many cities, you can't remember. Everything blends in. So yeah. Oh, I know, Chicago O'Hare. I did an overnight in
Oh,
Chicago and then I came back. So I've been here and yeah, so I can go see things when I'm kind of in between. So, but it is kind of crazy. It does definitely looks more like Las Vegas now than it does Nashville. I mean, it feels like a different place, but
really? And what's
yeah,
what's what's changed?
it just feels like it's even more commercialized. I mean, I don't know how many more things they could add on Broadway, but it's kind of crazy because it's just Broadway that's packed with all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I'm going to adventure out into the suburbs a little bit, see what else it's like here. But most of the people that I talk to really enjoy living here. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. Remember we did that marathon there in
yeah,
Nashville.
I know I could barely walk the hills today. I was like, I can't believe I ran these.
Man, that was the toughest marathon. I mean, that was tough.
Yeah, especially if you don't train on hills and then you just show up. I mean, you didn't even train, so that probably
Yeah,
was harder.
it was hard. I mean, I had to stop and walk several times, and the hills were just, man, those hills out there were massive. I mean, that marathon was 10 times harder than the Los Angeles marathon, no doubt about it. It was vicious, but we survived. And now, how's your foot doing?
I forget that I even broke it. Isn't that crazy? I mean, in
Okay.
the morning sometimes it hurts, but being on my feet and working all day, I don't even notice it. So yeah, glad I glad I was able to come back to normal pretty much.
Cool. Good. Good. Well, it's good. I bet you're glad to be back and back working and everything like that, moving around. That's
Yep.
great. So all right. Well, we got a question from Dr. Gonzo last time. And by the way, if anybody's listening live, and we're hoping the internet, where I'm at, the internet's always a little shaky. So if it's a little shaky, that hang in there with us, guys. But we got a question last episode from Dr. Gonzo, and the question was, what was it like growing up with two parents that were lawyers? Right? Remember that? That's
Yes.
right, Kristen.
Yep.
Right. So I'll let you start on that one, Kristen. What was it like growing up? Because we had, if we're 3.5 minutes into the episode, if you don't know, we're a brother and sister podcast, but I feel like most people already know that. But so our parents were both lawyers. So what was that like, Kristen?
I feel like it would be hard to know any other way, I mean, because that's what we grew up with. I do think that dad would make us, I mean, I don't know if he did this to you, but he did it for me, made me problem solve all the time. So if I didn't know the answer to something, he would make me figure it out. He very rarely would just give me the answer straight away without putting in some effort to try to get the answer. Like, for example, if you would see a sign that, like, Troy was a mile away, he would ask me how many feet that was, and I would have to do the
Oh,
math on that. And I always thought that that was tricky. So there were things like that where he always made us like problem solve and be, I think, critical thinkers. So I think that was good. I mean, that was good in the end because it helped me think a different way. But I don't think I would have known any other way. I mean, it's kind of like if that's what you're born into, that's what you just get used to. So I don't know. I think also it was helpful because it showed that there's a degree of, I mean, I kind of thought you just went to law school after college and you just did that. So I think knowing like education was important was a big piece, and I'm grateful for that. So that's what I would say.
yeah. I don't think he ever asked me that question about the mile, but he always had baseball questions for me. You're playing second base and there's one out and a man on first and a man on third. What do you do? Stuff stuff like that. So but yeah, I think that dad would let me lie, but he would know I'm lying. Is how he would mess with me.
Oh, and that's
You
clever.
know, just to see what I would do. Just to see, and then he would kind of start bringing in other facts along the way. You know, one time me and the guys were getting a little crazy we were at a go kart place or something like that, and we were getting wild, and somehow or another it got back to him. And then when I came home, he had all these questions, and just kind of, and then you just kind of start digging yourself in worse and worse, but he just lets you go.
Like he would do to most people on the witness stand. Like,
Yeah.
how bad is it
So
gonna get?
yeah, so it was kind of pointless to lie to him too much. Sometimes he would let it go, I guess, but I think he could kind of always tell when you were lying because he was used to dealing with that all the time. So I feel like he would kind of just like, get you. Now, um, on the other hand, I did once try a case for him when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. It was an arraignment, and it's when all the guys are, chained up beside each other, and they walk in, and I mean, he already had it figured out with the judge what was going to happen, and he so he had already figured out what was going to happen, but they had me go up there and say, Your Honor, I forget the guy's name now, but let's say Mr. White is really apologizes for what he's done, and he's learned his lesson, and it won't happen anymore. If the court could please, we asked that he be released, and the judge was Judge Kessler, her neighbor, actually, and he's like, that's the best statement I've ever heard in this courtroom. He's free to go. You've got a good lawyer. He said to him. Then I walked, and there was people standing around, all shaking my hands.
That's probably what made you start to be in acting because you had to memorize lines.
Yeah, totally. So that was a fun thing, and I also remember being in the I got to hear a lot of stories because dad would take me, especially in the summertime, to his office. Remember that green chair he had?
Yep.
That was, it was, there was the chairs where his clients were. And then beside him was like this green reclining chair. And I would sit in there sometimes and get to listen to his conversations with these clients, which I feel was years above the age I was, but it was kind of fun to listen to them talk. So that was something I
Yeah.
found fun about that.
I would also say with mom that she had already had you and was pregnant with me when she went to law school. So I say I've been to law school twice.
Yeah,
But when I was in law school, I realized I couldn't complain about how hard it was because, she had it like, it was way harder. So I was like, well, I really have no room to complain. I just have to worry about myself. And then she had you and I was about to be born. So yeah, it's kind of like, well, don't say anything because it's going to be, you can't get sympathy there.
yeah. I mean, that's crazy. She was going to law school pregnant and at a time when there probably wasn't as many ladies as going to law school. And it's like, that's already hard enough going to law school, but with that going on as well, that's pretty epic,
Yeah.
right? And we even have that as part of the story in the script we wrote, our movie script, The Trials of Life. That is based on a true story that happened here in our town, a murder trial. And but in there she was, we used the fact that she was pregnant during that time. So that was pretty good. Now, clearly, mom was a lot stricter than dad was, you know, and because mom got straight A's all through her whole life, you know, so she really put the foot down as far as getting your homework done. So she was more lawyer like in that aspect, right? You had kind of like uh, she was stricter, and dad was a defense attorney, so he'd kind of let you off with more stuff. So
He did your homework for you, didn't he?
yeah, he loved to do that. Well, dad was old. Dad was old, so I'd come home, have history class. Dad, did you know Abraham Lincoln? No. What about General Patton? I got stories about Patton. Write them down, Dad. Uh, yeah.
That's
straight,
funny.
straight, and George Silva, straight A's till she had B swine.
It's almost like that's a B minus right there with that hyphen there. B minus swine.
B minus swine. And we got a question to answer from George, but we'll get to that one next week because we're a week behind. But that's about the Olympics and gold medals, so we'll be on that one next week. But yeah, that's a great comment there. She had straight A's till she had B swine.
I feel like you need to work that into a comedy routine. That's a good one.
That's, dude, that is totally my style of a joke right there. That is.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks for the writing session, George. Your check will be in the mail.
That was
Oh
clever.
man. So, and speaking of comedy shows, we just had an epic time the last couple of days, and we finished the tour off at the Eagles Club in Covington, Ohio. So, shout out to everybody who was in Covington, Ohio. Our buddy Tim Wackler was there. I got a great picture with him. Sean McNeil was there. We had Nikki was there. Dee Baker was there. So we had a lot of our old friends from high school. Jill Moore was there from the class of '98, and so we had a lot of people there. Was packed. We had to bring in more chairs. We had more people than we expected to have, so it was pretty great.
Well, that's
Uh,
good.
yeah, so that was fun. That was fun, and of course, there's several people that come to all these shows who knew Dad. You know, he always has his. You know, he, I don't know what would you call it, legacy or his legend. Uh,
Legacy.
yeah, his legacy still stands. I mean, I was out passing out some uh, at the gas station, passing out a couple flyers to the show, and both the guys I had passed out flyers read my name. Were you related to? Yeah, that was my dad. You know, you don't have to finish the sentence. Were you related to? Is always, yeah, that was my dad. Sometimes people ask me, was your grandpa? No, that was actually my dad.
Yep.
Uh, so there was, of course, even the gig I got was from his friend Betty. Betty first got me into the Eagles, 10 years ago to do shows there. And it's because of Dad. He and her were friends, and, for all those years. And that's how I got to do it all those years ago. And every time I have a show there in Piqua, there's always somebody that has a dad story, of our dad. So there's a guy who was a police officer in Piqua, Mark Kaiser, comes to the coffee shops, always has stories about dad. He said, that the cops, they didn't like him on the stand, but he said actually they liked him as a guy. They
Mm.
didn't want to be up against him, but he said, and then sometimes he would give him compliments if he couldn't get the answers he wanted. He would tell him, you did good today. I couldn't get you. So, but in general, they saw that he had a case, and they didn't like it because they knew, because he would keep you up there longer than necessary just to get what he was trying to get out of you, and just trying with those questions, like he would do with me when I would do something bad, and he would just let you dig yourself worse until you couldn't. You had told the story couple different ways where it won't make sense. It's like,
And now you can't even remember the truth. Now you're so
yeah,
confused.
yeah. Now, well, okay, we'll end on this story because I think this was a good one. Remember when I got in trouble at the Bradford Pumpkin Show?
Yeah, I forget what you did, but I remember you got in trouble.
I might have mooned the cops,
Oh,
but
okay.
and, but something to that effect. There was, and at the Bradford Pumpkin Show, for those of you who don't know, which I would say is 90% of you, you walk around with confetti and you just throw it in people's faces. That's all you do. It's just,
What a dumb festival. Like,
hey, weren't you the Bradford
no,
Pumpkin
I was
Festival?
not. I was on the court, but I was not the pumpkin queen. I was
Okay,
the
you weren't the
strawberry
pumpkin
queen.
strawberry queen. So Kristen was the strawberry queen, but not the pumpkin queen. So,
Yeah.
well, that's probably because I mooned the cops and you couldn't
Yeah, I didn't have a
get the
chance.
votes. So, I have to go to the police station. I'm in there, and we got the video. I found the video. You know what? I'm gonna have to find the video because I have it somewhere. Because what I did was we have all these VHS tapes, and I went to Walmart and I had them make them into digital. So somewhere I think I have this, but I'm in the police station, and Dad comes in with you filming with one of those big old cameras, like the old fashioned.
That's right.
So there he is, and I look at myself. I'm like, what a jerk I was. So I'm sitting there like, oh, like this. It's like I'm getting like, this is interesting, and Dad's in there giving him a hard time. They're giving him a hard time back, and he's in there arguing, fighting. And did you read him his rights?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's like, no, we're gonna, and I don't know, like, so they're going back and forth. It was just, it was hilarious. So, uh,
And I don't remember filming that at all, but I'm sure Dad had a good reason for it. I
yeah,
don't
he
know
had a
what that
reason.
would be.
Yeah, I don't remember all the exact details. I just know I was in trouble. There was a fight earlier on in the night because at that time is when I was hanging out with guys that like to kind of. It would always be a fight between the high school kids and the carnies. The carnies that were
Oh God,
working
yeah.
and the pumpkin festival because you're throwing confetti into people's face. I mean, it's going to make you fight, right?
Yeah.
Like you would be walking. The worst is like because I love the tenderloin sandwich, right? And the worst was when you be getting ready to take a bite out of the tenderloin sandwich, and somebody come and just boom confetti, right? And tears would be streaming down your choking. It's just like the worst feeling ever. So, uh, but that was the Bradford pumpkin show, and so and Dad came, and you were with him to film me to film whatever interactions were going down at the pumpkin show.
I
So
can't believe he had me filming. That
yes,
doesn't.
you were filming.
I know. I can. I vaguely remember him being like, "Here, you're gonna film." I'm like, okay. For what purpose is beyond me. Maybe it was just to show you later how dumb that was.
I don't know. It was something to also scare the cops, right? Like you got all this stuff on film, and then at some point I got to get this video. I got to find it. We got a lot of videos to go through back and find it because I feel like there was a point where the cop was trying to push the camera. You're holding the camera, so now he's getting on the cop about pushing. She's a little girl pushing the camera. Like he's upset that you're
Yeah.
pushing the camera, but I mean, you can see it from the cop's point of view. He's like, yeah, get that out of my face, but it's like a little girl, 16, 15 years old, holding the camera.
Oh my
So
gosh.
uh, it was fun. Another thing along the lines is I used to like to watch dad get ready for his cases, because remember he would sit at that table, our kitchen table,
Hmm.
and he had that yellow notepad and he would write, and then he would kind of stand up and say a couple things, and then he would sit back down and write a little bit. And that's actually similar to how I get ready for the comedy shows now. I sit down there and write out the joke, and then I stand up and practice it a couple times. Now that don't really sound good. Then you kind of sit down and so there's a similarity to it. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, because but kind of, it's not like I'm trying to game by it, um, but yeah, he would have that little notepad and just kind of write and kind of get himself prepared. And I think it's similar too in the fact that he would have a game plan, but you kind of improvise a little bit as you go. So
Yeah, I think that I was always like, for as crazy as some of those cases were and as much work on some level, I mean, I know he put a lot of work in, but on the other hand, there were times where I couldn't believe how little he had to do to prepare because he already, I don't know, it just seemed like he could put it together pretty quickly.
yeah, it comes with all those years of doing it too. And he would come in, and sometimes he would just get it down, and he would look at it and just, I guess too, a lot of it was just the fact that he was willing to kind of fight, like argue and fight, and that. But uh, yeah, there's just so many stories of, you know, people coming up and saying to me the different things he's done. A lot of times he was so many stories of him getting people out without charging them. I hear those type of stories a lot. So
Yeah, so if anybody wants to donate to the movie, if you if you ever dad ever helped you out for free, we're trying to make
yeah,
a movie about it. So
yeah, yeah. So and we're gonna try, and we're throwing this out there too. I still got to get a hold of the. Um, I've been trying to contact the warden out there at the jail that the guy is in, that the hitman of the story is in, because I'm gonna try again calling tomorrow, but throw that out there so that we can get some, because we've been so busy with stuff that we got to get it moving again. But the script is awesome. The story is incredible. I mean, it's just like a nutty. The real life stuff is so much crazier than anything we could sit there and fictionalize. You
yeah.
know, so. But yeah, so I think it was fun. Like you said, we didn't know any different. But I would say though, the hard part about having parents as lawyers to me was trying to get to the level they are at. It's to feel like you're that successful, and especially for me, that's why I kind of want to go back to college, just to kind of get that, because it's like they're up here, it's such a high level to try to get to, you know. So, Dr. Gonzo, you're going to have to watch the rest of this episode on playback, because we were answering your question about having parents as lawyers. So, you're going to have to check this out, buddy. Um, So watch the playback there on YouTube when you get a second, and we're going to come on your podcast as soon as we can. But we've been so slammed right now with Kristen traveling everywhere; it's not easy, right? So, um, but we're going to be on the Dr. Gonzo podcast at some point coming up. We were trying to make it work today, but we've been slammed. So, uh, but yeah, any other memorable,
Mm,
did that push you harder having our parents be both lawyers, or because I mean it made you went to law school, so
yeah, but that's part of because I was like I was interested in it. But I do remember when I think I was 5. I was in the elevator with dad at the courthouse, and he said he'd be, I don't know, 80 something years old when I graduated from law school. So from that time on, I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to law school. So that that's kind of how I made that decision. Like, just I remember being in the elevator, like I still remember it, and he was telling
wow,
somebody. So I think that that was part of it. So I didn't think anything about like, oh, I got to go to, I never felt pressure to go to law school. I think a lot of people always think that, like, did your parents pressure you to go? Was that something? No, I wanted to go, and because I just thought like, well, that's what you did, and so,
yeah,
um, but, and I'm glad I did, right? Like, it's not a, you
yeah,
never
it's
look back
cool,
and go, "Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that," because, you know, I
Yeah.
to be able to accomplish that. But yeah, and then, I also think that too, one last thought on this was that I think sometimes people had a perception of, because we're in a small town and both parents were lawyers, of like how things were or what they were. But I don't think until you actually live in a family or know more about people, can you actually make that determination because you've got two parents as lawyers as to like what that's like. You don't actually know. And I think a big thing that I learned from both mom and dad was like just being humble and kind. Like it doesn't matter where you come from, what your family did, who you are. It matters the type of person that you are. And I think that that's one thing too, is just both of them being humble and kind about, who they are and what they've accomplished. So that would be my big takeaway from all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that. And I think too, like I liked meeting, and more so probably, I guess, because of dad's defense attorney, meeting the kind of crazy characters that we got to see, right? Because that changes your perspective too about how tough some people's lives are, you know?
Hmm.
And uh so that is good. I see we
This is
got
a,
Rich. Yeah.
I was going to say, this is a total random aside, but like on that, like the characters. So I was getting on, about to start work, getting on a plane, and there was an entire football team of, I think they were veterans, but I'm not sure. It was a wheelchair football team. And they were flying from, I don't know where they were coming from, but they were ending up in Chicago to do this wheelchair football thing. So all of them were like either missing a leg or something, like something super, like a lot. And I was like, wow, if that doesn't, like how many people are able bodied and could do so much stuff and they don't? And here's an entire group of people that, are don't have their legs or whatever, but there's like
Wow.
there to be on a football team. And then they all had like their special wheelchairs and got themselves off the ramp and, the whole thing. And then I just said to one of the flight attendants, I was like, boy, if that doesn't make you grateful for what you have, like that, you just see so many different walks of life and what people can be going through. So yeah, along those lines, sometimes it's I don't know.
Yeah. That is cool. That's a good story. um we got Richard Poole chipping in here with the hey. And you would have liked the day I had today with Richard. We went to see his wife Teresa in a horse competition.
Oh,
And Chris, and you want to tell a little bit about your involvement with your organization in Florida with the horses?
yes. Yeah, so I work with Equine Assisted Therapies of South Florida. We help like disabled kids and adults, like with autism. I mean, if they have autism or whether physical or mental challenges, and the horses actually help provide therapy. So it can help strengthen muscles and help people walk again. Also, I know other. You know what? I have a really good video that somebody did on it. I need to bring that on here because there's a little clip about the organization, and I can't do it justice. But anyway, we have our big
Yeah,
fundraising event
put that
coming up
clip
in
on there.
November. Yeah,
In November, you're doing one, you said?
yeah. The charity event is in November.
Cool. That was
Yeah.
fun. Um,
Uh,
Here we got a great thing because I was blaming Kristen for not going on Gonzo's today. So, George, I'm really gonna hire you as a writer, bro. I'm not lying, dude. So he said, Kristen being blamed for not going on Dr. Gonzo's podcast has me wondering, Kristen, can you use a future podcast to tell us about all the things Brian blamed on you growing he's not he's not wrong. Well, I shouldn't jump in, but I got something to say after that. After you guys something to say, if you do.
I mean, I feel like I kind of got to the point where I don't remember because I don't even know what I was getting blamed for. Like I don't even know what you were blaming me for. It was
One
like
time,
you just said things and I didn't even know.
yeah, one time when we were real little, you got spanked because I tore up some library books and told mom it was you. Do you remember that? I still feel guilty to it about this day.
Well, you should. Uh, no, I cannot. No, I do not remember that. Again, I just black out all those memories.
It was yeah. So I blame everybody for everything that I do. So, Dr. Gonzo agrees. It was a great night at the Eagles last night. That is so true. That was so true. Tim Wackler. Hey, Brian, I have a, a appointment to get appointed a car. You getting a car? Okay. Uh, Thanks for coming, bro. Hope you can do it again. Yeah, Tim. We had a great time with Tim, man. And I have the picture of us, Tim, and I was trying to put it on here, but it wouldn't let me. So I gotta run into you and get that. And Richard Poole said hell of a, and he's talking about the show. I'm
Oh,
believing because Richard came all the way out, which was
wow.
well, actually, but you know what? He was in Sydney yesterday or today and yesterday with the at the fairgrounds where our grandpa has a horse race named after him, the Joe Strayer Memorial every year. So here we go, hell of a show, and it really was. Last night was something else, and got to see all three of these guys. Only person we were missing was George, who's in California, and I got to get back out there. But Dr. Gonzo, Richard Poole, and Tim Wackler were all at the gig last night.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we got to get back out there to California to see George because George has been doing a lot of um, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so he's got to teach me some stuff. So, but it was a fun time, and yeah, I have put too much blame on Kristen for stuff, so you know.
Maybe that'll be the full question for a podcast, but I got to really rack my brain because I don't remember
Yeah, well,
much.
it's like you blocked it all out, you
And for
know.
sure I did. For sure I did. You have all these
You
childhood memories, and I can't remember anything.
know?
I should have been
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
flight to Jamaica. Yeah, I
yeah.
was.
So they took
Hello, yeah.
his 44th. Uh, they had their 44th wedding anniversary, and they went to Jamaica, and
Nice.
they went on Southwest, and they were hoping that you were going to be the flight attendant.
Wouldn't that
So
be something? Yep.
yeah,
At
that'd be
least you picked
awesome.
the right airline. That's good.
Yeah, there you go. Keep the money coming into them, so Kristen keeps
Exactly.
having the job.
That's right. Yeah, this is another random thing, but it's funny when people get on the airplane and they're like, "Is this full?" And you're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Ah," they get so disappointed, and I'm like, "I want my job. It's good for me."
Yeah, totally. That's good. Hey, well, we had a good one. I love these chats coming in here,
Oh, good.
where
Love
people,
Southwest.
yeah, I love Southwest. So, and yeah, we had a great time, man. You would have liked the horses today. There's Teresa has one called Batman, and he's almost like he's kind of chill. He's like almost not as chill as Bestie, but he's almost like a horse style Bestie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Gonzo says Southwest have had some awesome sales. Yeah, they had some like $50, $49.99 prices there. So, and plus they got the good thing with the bags where you get to check your bags in for free
Yep.
because people forget that that's why Spirit has all those problems. Now, if you're only bringing your backpack, Spirit is the cheapest. But people get there and they don't realize that they're going to charge for the bags, and then there's always like a fight at the at the terminal because people are freaking out over they got to pay 50 more dollars for the bag and this and that. So that's a problem. But yeah, well, hey, we went a little longer than normal, but hey, it's hard not to with all these good questions coming in on the chat. So all right, let's get Tim in here. Oh, Brian, my sister wants to know what Mia Moore's real name is. Name really is. Well, I'm gonna tell her that, but I haven't really exposed Mia Moore's name on public too much. What do you think, Kristen? I'm gonna have to tell Tim another time on
Yeah,
that.
that's not my decision. He's asking you.
Spirit seats. So Tim, I'll tell you what her real name is, just not on the internet. How's that? I'm gonna post a comment here to email me so you can get the real name because I want people. Because people are, and once again, last night, several people thought her name really was Mia Moore. That's my bad on that. How can you not think that's?
Yeah.
So, Dr. Gonzo says
Mm,
spirit seats are like sitting on a
on
plank
a
of
plank.
wood.
That's true.
Yeah, Richard Poole. I called her Mia Moore. Didn't know it wasn't her name.
I mean, it's a Spanish name.
It's a Spanish name, and her real name's really unique too. But at Mia Moore, I say, well, man, that's a great name for a kid. She says you can't name a kid Mia Moore. I think so. But yeah. So anyways, we got a great group in here right now. So well, uh, I guess we could keep going. There's so much going on in the world right now, but I'm trying not to hit on those topics. But
Yeah, let's not. I have to get up at like
yeah.
four something. Four. I think
Okay, we
we got to
better
go
let you
4
go.
a.m.
It's already 10 p.m. So well, I'm glad you had time today, and we both had time. We couldn't get together last week, but hopefully we can come back. And I think Sundays are a good day if we can make it work. I mean, I know your Sundays are like a regular work day, but
Yeah, it's okay.
yeah,
If I'm
but it was
around.
yeah, and it was fun, guys. Too, if it, I don't know how exactly to do it, but we're on that Spotify. We're trying to bring up our viewers on Spotify. I'm a couple days behind on the podcast there, but you can listen to us there as well and everything like that. But the YouTube and the Facebook and everything is great. And thank you, Richard. That is the perfect way to end it. Y'all have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.